There's a man buried behind the gas station I used to work at, and for 1 week in October, he walked through my front door every single night to remind me he was still there. I'll call myself Dana. I ran the graveyard shift at a station off the highway, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Alone, nothing around 4 miles but trees and a drainage ditch running along the back fence. I took the job for the extra $2 an hour and told myself I wasn't scared of the dark. I found out fast how wrong I was. The bell over the door never rang after midnight. Every regular knew that. So when it rang at exactly 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, I actually looked up, expecting nothing. A tall man stood just inside the door. Gray coat, hood up, even though the night was warm. He didn't move toward the aisles, didn't reach for his wallet. He just stared at me, unblinking, for a full minute. Then he turned around and walked back out into the dark like he'd only come in to check that I was still there. I told myself it was nothing. Then he came back the next night. Same time, down to the minute. Same spot by the door. I said, "Can I help you find something?" And he tilted his head slowly, like the question didn't make sense to him, and left without a word. By the 4th night, I was watching the clock instead of the register. My manager, Roland, told me graveyard shift makes people jumpy and to stop obsessing over some quiet weirdo who never even touched the merchandise. But something in the way that man looked at me wasn't quiet. It was patient, like he was waiting for me to notice something I kept missing. On the 5th night, I stopped waiting for him to leave. I followed him instead. I know that was stupid, but he didn't walk toward the road. He cut along the fence line toward the ditch, moving faster than a man his size should have been able to move. My flashlight kept catching nothing but grass. Then I heard digging. He was on his knees at the edge of the ditch, pulling something out of the loose, packed down dirt with both hands. Fabric first, then hair, then a face that had been underground long enough that I still can't describe it. Without my throat closing up, he looked up at me, not startled, almost relieved, like he'd been waiting years for someone to finally understand. "They keep asking me to stay," he said, calm as anything, "but nobody comes to relieve me." I ran. I don't remember most of it, just the bell over the door and my hand shaking too hard to dial. Police found the ditch exactly where I said it would be. 3 bodies, all reported missing over the years, all last seen near that stretch of highway. No sign of the man in the gray coat. Not that night, or ever again. What they did find, buried in old employee files, was a name a man who'd worked that same graveyard shift 11 years earlier, clocked in one night, and never clocked out, written off back then as a kid skipping town. I never went back to that station, but some nights, out of habit, I still glance at the clock, right at 2:47, half waiting to hear a bell that isn't there. For 2 years I worked the front desk of a roadside hotel, and there was one room I was never, ever supposed to open. The night I finally did, a family checked in and never checked out. Call me Marcus. The hotel was the kind of place people stopped when they didn't want to be found. Cash only, no questions asked. My manager, Iris, had worked there longer than anyone could remember, and she had one rule that mattered more than all the others combined. Room 114 stays closed, she told me on my very first night. No matter how full we get, no matter who's begging at the counter, you don't ask why, and you never, ever go in after dark. For over a year, I didn't even think about it much. It just sat at the end of the hallway with its door shut, its brass number catching the light in a way that made me glance twice and then look away. Then, Iris got sick, and I was left running the desk alone with a temp who either didn't know the rules or didn't care about them. One packed night, a family with 2 crying kids begged for any room left in the building. Before I could stop him, he'd already handed them the spare key to 114. I found the door standing wide open an hour later. On my walkthrough, I should have called Iris right then. Instead, Some part of me needed to see what was so important about an empty room that a woman would build a decade of rules around it. I walked down that hallway myself. The room looked ordinary at first. Bed made, TV off, curtains pulled shut. Then I stepped inside, and my breath fogged in front of me. The air suddenly, impossibly cold. Underneath the usual bleach and carpet smell was something sweet and wrong that I still can't fully describe. The family wasn't there. Their suitcase sat open on the bed, clothes still folded neatly inside. The television flickered with static and no sound, and across the bathroom mirror, written in something dried dark red that I checked later and was not paint, were 3 words: "She is home." I never saw that family again. The temp didn't show up for his next shift either, and the number on his application rang out to nothing. I searched every inch of that room and found no struggle, no clue. Nothing the police could work with when I finally called them 3 days later, after Iris came back and heard what had happened. She didn't look surprised, just tired in a way that had nothing to do with being sick. "I told you never to open that door," she said quietly. "It doesn't take people who go looking for it. It takes the ones we let in by mistake." I asked her what had been in that room before us. What could possibly need a rule like that? She wouldn't answer. She just took my keys back and told me my shift was over. I quit 2 weeks later, but the hotel is still standing, still renting out every ordinary room in that building every single night. And somewhere down that hallway, room 114 is still closed, still cold, still waiting for the next person careless enough to open the door.